Today I'm showing you how a few keyboard shortcuts can help you step up your editing game. Hey everybody, how's it going? My name is Aryan and today we're talking all about keyboard shortcuts. And personally, in my opinion, this is something that doesn't get talked about enough, but this is really a sign of a great editor, and in my opinion, this is something you pretty much should have done yesterday. But if you haven't already, that's okay, you're at a great spot. I'm going to show you guys how I set up my keyboard, and you can copy it if you like, or make it your own, whatever works for you. With all of that out of the way, let's get started. So the first thing is actually, how do you actually start editing keyboard shortcuts? That is actually very simple. You just open up Premiere, you go up to Edit, and then you scroll all the way down to Keyboard Shortcuts. And there you have the big dialog box that's going to let you edit all of your keyboard shortcuts. So now let's go over how I actually set up my keyboard shortcuts. And the first one, and the one I use most often, is X. And I have that mapped to Add Edit. What that does is that it basically adds a cut wherever my playhead is in my timeline. And considering, while editing, the most common thing you do is cut your clips, think of how many times you go over, select the blade tool, cut the video, then go select the selection tool again. That just takes a lot of time. So I can just be playing my video, wherever I want to add a cut, I just hit X. That's it. I don't have to pick any tools, none of that. It just adds a cut right there. So saves me so much time, and considering you use that so often, it can potentially save you hours. Next up, we have Q and W. And these kind of go hand in hand because they kind of do the same thing, and that is they ripple trim everything before or after the edit. Which sounds kind of complicated, but it's really not. Essentially what it means is that whenever I'm playing my video, whenever I hit Q, it's gonna add a cut right where I hit Q, and it's gonna ripple delete everything to the left of that specific clip. And W does the opposite. It gets rid of everything after that specific point on that clip. These two come in handy all the time, especially for something like a talking head like this. You see all these jump cuts in my video because I mess up sometimes and I have to redo stuff. And to get rid of all of that, essentially I just go to the take I really want, I pause there, and I just hit Q. It gets rid of everything prior to that, all of the outtakes, and it just keeps that. And I go to the end of my take and I just hit W, and it gets rid of everything after that. I don't need to go right click and ripple delete, none of that. I don't even have to hit X to add a cut. It adds the cut for me too. So it's just one click and I add a cut, I get rid of everything prior or after that cut. So whenever I'm editing these YouTube videos, essentially I can edit the whole thing with just using one hand on Q, W, X, and space. Space is to play and pause the video, of course. So I can just play, pause where I want to cut. You can either cut and then keep going, or I can just hit Q to get rid of everything behind that cut, or W to get rid of everything, in front of that. It's as simple as that. So you can see how this tiny stuff kind of adds up and saves you so much time in the future. You're not constantly going and picking for different tools in the toolbar. You just have everything on the tip of your fingers right here. And the goal at the end of the day is to use your mouse as little as possible. Just right here, all keyboard shortcuts. Alright, so next up I have Control-Shift-N, and that I have set to create a nested sequence. And this comes in handy all the time because sometimes I need to warp stabilize something and I need to nest it before I do that, so that comes in handy all the time. Or I just need to group a few clips together and create one nested sequence. It's just right there. Again, better than right clicking, finding nested sequence. Just saves time right there. Moving on, we have something very similar, and it's actually just Control-N, and I have that set to creating a new sequence. So whenever I load up Premiere, the first thing I do is that I hit Control+N, and that just brings up the sequence menu, and I can just create my sequence there. Typically I have some presets saved for the sequences I most commonly use, and I just select one of those and I can hit OK. Ready to go, just like that. And if I'm working with multiple sequences, that comes in handy all the time. Next up we have J and L. And these also go hand in hand because they kind of do similar things. What L does is that basically plays your video. And you might think that, spacebar does the same thing. But L has one little trick up its sleeve, is that if you press it twice, you play your video at 2 times the speed. You press it 3 times, you play it at 4 times the speed. So every additional time you hit L, it doubles, the playback speed. So if I'm just, previewing my projects and I want to scrub through something a little faster, I can just do one of these and all of a sudden I can, go through stuff a lot faster. It really helps for talking heads like this because, even at twice the speed, I can kind of understand what I'm saying. So I don't have to, watch everything in real time. I can kind of just do one of these, see which takes I like, which takes I don't, and it saves me time, because I'm watching everything twice as fast. And J does the exact opposite. It plays your video backwards. So if you think you went too far, instead of going and trying to find the same spot, you can just hit J and it starts playing your video in reverse. And it does the same thing if you want to play it at twice the speed, 4 times the speed, 8 times the speed. You can just press it that many times. And technically K stops your video, but I wouldn't really use that ever because spacebar is bigger and easier to use, and it does the exact same thing. K doesn't really have any tricks up its sleeve. It just stops or plays your video. That's it. Next up we have R and Control R. And these also again go hand in hand. That's a little theme here. But essentially this has to do with the rate stretch tool. I just have it set to R because R is technically the default shortcut for the rate stretch tool. And I just added Control R to bring up the dialog box. So I don't have to right click and go through the rate stretch tool dialog box. But if you just want the rate stretch tool, you can just hit R and the thing pops up. You can drag your clip and make it as slow or as fast as you want. But if you want the dialog box and you would rather just enter in 15% or 20%, you can just hit Control R and do that, that way. Next up we have V, and this is just your selection tool, like your normal pointer. And if you are one of those people who would actually, go to the toolbar and select one of the tools that way, I recommend at least you use V because, then you don't have to go back and select the selection tool. Let's say, you went and you select the blade tool. You don't have to go back and select the selection tool, just hit V. Simple as that. Or if you use the shortcuts and you hit R for the rate stretch tool, now you have to go back to the selection tool. So instead of going to the toolbar, you just hit R and then you can hit V to go back. We're almost done here, but next up we have M, which is for adding a marker. And this one can add a marker on a clip itself if you have a clip selected, or it can add a marker on your timeline itself. So if you have no clip selected and you hit M, it's gonna actually add a marker on your time codes at the top, so the entire timeline. But if you have a clip selected, you can add markers at specific points just in that clip. So that's a handy little feature. Let's say you're listening to a music track and you want to mark all the beats in the song, you can just keep playing it and just keep hitting M on every beat. As easy as that. Alright, so last but definitely not the least, and I think these are default shortcuts, but I'm not too sure, so don't quote me on them, but that would be the up and down arrow. And they stand for, I want to make sure I get this right, go to next edit point or go to previous. So up is for next, down is for previous. So if you have 50 different cuts in your video and you want to quickly go to each cut, snap to them, you can just keep hitting the up or down arrow. Left and right, I know for sure are default shortcuts if you want to go frame by frame, but if you want to just go edit by edit, you can just hit the up and down arrow, and that makes maneuvering through your timeline so much easier. Or if you're just one of those people who likes to go frame by frame, you could, sit there and do this all day, but up and down arrow saves you a lot of time. Alright guys, that was it for today's video, and if you haven't checked out last week's video yet, that was all about presets. I will link it right over here. I recommend you go check it out. Again, the series is all about helping you become a better editor at the end of the day. So I really hope you're finding it helpful. If you are, don't forget to leave it a like, subscribe for more videos like this, and don't forget to hit the notification bell, and I'll see you guys next time.